Fame can change lives, but it can also destroy them. In the world of bodybuilding, the chase for the perfect physique has pushed countless athletes to the limit. And when discipline, drugs, and explosive relationships collide, the outcome can be catastrophic. Today, we're diving into a story that rocked the sport and exposed the darkest side of life behind the spotlight. Get ready for a wild ride full of twists, drama, and lessons that will keep you hooked until the very end. So grab your pre-workout and let's go, because what you're about to hear will definitely surprise you. Craig Michael Titus was born on January 14, 1965, in Wyandotte, Michigan. For years, his name was tied to the bright lights of bodybuilding stages, glossy magazine covers, and the thrill of competition. He was seen as genetically gifted, determined, and talented, someone who seemed destined to become a legend in the sport. But what started out as an inspiring journey eventually turned into one of bodybuilding's darkest cautionary tales. The Craig Titus case goes way beyond muscles and trophies. It's a story of rise and fall, of how fame, toxic relationships, and bad choices can completely derail a life. What began with discipline, hardcore training, and glory on stage ended up with police headlines, a high-profile trial, and a conviction for murder. A downfall that shocked fans and shook the entire fitness community. In this video, we'll take a deep dive into Craig Titus's life, how he built his career, and how his name ultimately became synonymous with tragedy. Craig first stepped into competitive bodybuilding back in 1988 at the Houston Bodybuilding Championships. Against all odds, he not only won the middleweight class, but also took the overall title. That victory launched his competitive journey, showcasing not just his promising physique, but also his drive to turn bodybuilding into both a lifestyle and a career. In the years that followed, Craig racked up some big wins in the amateur circuit. He took the Ironman title in 1991 and hit his peak as an amateur in 1996 by winning the NPC USA Championships. That win gave him national recognition and, more importantly, his IFBB Pro card, the golden ticket to compete on bodybuilding's biggest stages worldwide. Transitioning into the pro league was no easy ride, but Craig showed consistency. Through the early 2000s, he appeared in top-tier contests, earning respectable placements. His most notable highlights include the Mr. Olympia, where he placed 12th in 2001 and 11th in 2002, and the 2003 Night of Champions, where he shocked the crowd with a third-place finish, one of the best moments of his pro career. Another major stage for Craig was the Arnold Classic, widely considered one of the toughest bodybuilding shows in the world, second only to the Olympia. While he never took home the trophy, landing in the top 10 multiple times was enough to cement his credibility as a solid pro competitor. Craig never became an undisputed champion, but he carved out a reputation as a strong, reliable name in the sport. But here's the thing. Craig wasn't just remembered for his placements. His fiery, confrontational personality often got just as much attention as his muscles. He stirred up public arguments, sparked rivalries with athletes like King Kamali and Melvin Anthony, and made headlines for his trash talk outside the stage. Some fans found it entertaining, others thought it damaged his image. Still, Craig knew how to cash in on the controversy. He landed contracts with major fitness magazines, graced covers of publications like Muscular Development, and scored supplement sponsorships. His mix of a standout physique and an in-your-face persona made him a media figure in the early 2000s, always under the spotlight. And that raises a question. How much does controversy actually help or hurt a career? Craig was a master of self-promotion, but many believe his scandals ultimately overshadowed his wins. While Titus was building a career on stage, his personal life was crumbling. In 1995, he was convicted of conspiracy to distribute ecstasy, a club drug that was exploding in the U.S. rave scene at the time. His sentence, 16 months of house arrest, tracked with an ankle monitor. For a rising athlete, it was already a huge stain on his reputation, but many still believed he could bounce back. The problem was, Craig couldn't stay away from drugs and drama. By 1997, just 2 years later, he violated probation after getting caught using anabolic steroids, compounds like testosterone and dianabol that were already controversial in bodybuilding. This time, the punishment was tougher, 21 months in prison. And right there, we see the pattern that would define his life: an inability to control his impulses, constantly putting him on a collision course with the law. Those prison sentences had a direct impact on Craig's reputation in bodybuilding. Pro athletes, especially those competing in federations like the IFBB, are constantly under the microscope from fans, sponsors, and the media. Getting caught up in drugs and criminal charges didn't just stain his image, it also put endorsement deals and career opportunities at serious risk. Even so, Craig had this uncanny ability to reinvent himself. Every time he got out, he tried to jump back into training and competitions like nothing had happened. To many fans, he was this polarizing yet charismatic figure who managed to keep the media interested even while drowning in scandals. That contrast, the promising athlete versus the troubled man, started becoming the hallmark of his life. It's interesting because while Craig was grinding to stand out as a bodybuilder, he was also deliberately building a bad boy persona within the sport. For some, that made him more intriguing, like a rebel in a world obsessed with discipline and structure. But for others, he was just a wasted talent dragging bodybuilding's reputation through the mud with his poor choices. That duality followed Craig all the way through his career, and his drug issues weren't limited to use or distribution. Craig and his inner circle had a reputation for throwing wild, drug-fueled parties, the kind of thing that tabloids love. Bit by bit, he was being remembered less for his stage presence and more for the chaos surrounding him. But then, a new player entered the story. In 1999, Craig met Kelly Ryan, one of the most respected fitness athletes in the world at the time. Kelly already had her place in the spotlight as a top competitor and fitness model, with titles and media recognition to prove it. Together, they became what people in the industry called the power couple of fitness. Craig, the controversial bodybuilder, and Kelly, the elegant star of performance and physique shows. To the outside world, they looked unstoppable. The relationship moved fast. In July 2000, they got married in Las Vegas. Right after the ceremony, they rented a Harley-Davidson and cruised through California, playing into that image of a passionate, adventurous couple. For the public, Craig and Kelly were the embodiment of glamour, strength, and success, a duo that drew attention wherever they went. But they weren't just chasing trophies. Craig and Kelly dreamed of building a whole network of gyms in Las Vegas, turning their athletic fame into a fitness empire. The idea was to establish themselves not only as competitors, but also as successful entrepreneurs. It was an ambitious plan that showed how they envisioned their future: love, business, and visibility all rolled into one. Behind the polished photos and glossy magazine spreads, though, their marriage was far from harmonious. There were stories of jealousy, fights, and infidelity slowly eating away at the relationship. Craig, known as a ladies' man, allegedly got involved with Melissa James, a situation that would later play a central role in their downfall. And the drug scene kept dragging them down. Their lifestyle of parties and substance abuse fueled more conflict and instability. What could have been a golden partnership in fitness and business started spiraling into a relationship built on excess and dangerous choices. For many fans, it was almost impossible to believe that this perfect couple was living through their own private hell. On the outside, they were all about glamour and success. But behind closed doors, secrets were piling up, and they'd eventually explode in the worst possible way. Which brings us to the missing piece of this story, Melissa and James. Born in 1977, she fell in love with dance from a young age. Passionate and talented, she trained in ballet, hip-hop, and jazz, eventually becoming an instructor. At just 19, she even achieved her dream of opening her own dance studio in Florida. But financial struggles and bad partnerships crushed the business, forcing her to look for a new path. Determined to start fresh, Melissa took a leap of faith and moved to Las Vegas, hoping for new opportunities. That's where she crossed paths with Craig and Kelly, who were at the height of their careers in the fitness world. They offered her a job as their personal assistant and even a place to stay in their home. For Melissa, it seemed like the perfect chance to regain stability, maybe even save enough money to try again at building her dream studio. At first, things seemed fine. Melissa got close to the couple, shared their intense daily routine, and became a regular presence in both Craig and Kelly's personal and professional lives. But soon, tensions started to surface. Living and working under the same roof with two strong personalities, both under the weight of fame and pressure, turned out to be a lot harder than Melissa could have imagined. Accusations quickly followed. Craig and Kelly suspected Melissa of stealing money and credit cards for her own use. That created a toxic atmosphere inside the house, making the relationship more and more strained. On top of that, there were rumors that Craig was having an affair with Melissa, fueling Kelly's jealousy and sparking constant fights. What should have been a place of trust and support had now turned into a battlefield. Kelly Ryan, known for her discipline and laser focus, wasn't about to share her trust, let alone her husband. To her, Melissa wasn't help, she was a threat. Craig, with his explosive temper and history of drama, didn't exactly help calm things down either. If anything, he often poured gasoline on the fire, feeding the rivalry inside their home. Melissa, meanwhile, was caught in a nightmare. She depended financially on the couple and had nowhere else to go, yet she was surrounded by constant fights and accusations. The young dancer who once dreamed of success now found herself trapped in an unstable, toxic environment where trust and resentment collided daily. What was supposed to be a stepping stone in her career had turned into a living nightmare. Then came December 14th, 2005, the day everything unraveled. In the Nevada desert, just outside Las Vegas, firefighters discovered a red Jaguar engulfed in flames. The car was registered to Kelly Ryan. Once the blaze was under control, what they found inside was horrifying: a charred, unrecognizable body in the trunk. That body was later confirmed to be Melissa James, the couple's personal assistant. The autopsy revealed even more disturbing details. Melissa showed signs of strangulation, with cords and wires around her neck. Her face was completely wrapped in duct tape, like a macabre death mask. There were also marks suggesting the use of a taser, and traces of morphine and heroin were found in her system. While the official cause of death couldn't be pinned down with absolute certainty, the violence was undeniable. Investigators pieced together a chilling sequence. Melissa had likely been drugged, shocked with a taser, strangled, and restrained before being shoved into the trunk. The fire appeared to be a desperate attempt to destroy evidence and cover up the crime. This was no accident. It was a brutal, premeditated act. Naturally, suspicion fell on Craig and Kelly. The car belonged to Kelly, and the couple was immediately questioned. But instead of cooperating, they dodged and deflected. Each time they gave a statement, their story shifted, full of contradictions. To police, it was obvious. Their version didn't add up. With pressure closing in, Craig and Kelly made a run for it. Instead of staying in Las Vegas, they fled across the country to Massachusetts. Along the way, they allegedly tried to create alibis and ditch incriminating items. But by then, the case had blown up nationwide, and the manhunt for the fitness couple was on. The escape didn't last long. On December 23, 2005, less than 10 days after the murder, Craig and Kelly were caught at a shopping mall in Stoughton, Massachusetts. Kelly was arrested while getting her nails done in a salon, and Craig was taken down in the parking lot. Their arrest marked the end of their failed attempt to outrun American justice. Even then, Craig and Kelly tried desperately to spin the narrative. In their first statements, they claimed Melissa had died of an accidental overdose in the car, and out of fear of destroying their fitness careers, they panicked and hid the body. To most people, that explanation sounded ridiculous, especially given the condition in which Melissa's body was found. Over time, their story kept changing. Sometimes they claimed there was a fight between Kelly and Melissa. Other times, they floated the idea of a sex game gone wrong. At one point, they even suggested Melissa had been killed during a robbery. These constant shifts only reinforced what investigators and the public already believed. Craig and Kelly were twisting the truth, desperately trying to dodge responsibility for a crime that was way too brutal to ignore. Meanwhile, the investigation was building a rock-solid case against the couple. There were receipts showing purchases of flammable liquid at a supermarket, testimony from friends who claimed to have heard confessions, and even evidence of attempts to create fake alibis. With all that on the table, the prosecution's case only got stronger, and the possibility of facing the death penalty in court became very real for Craig and Kelly. In May 2008, after nearly 3 years of legal back and forth, Craig and Kelly struck a plea deal with prosecutors. Their main goal: avoid trial and, above all, escape capital punishment. As part of the deal, both admitted involvement in the crime, but to different degrees of responsibility. It was the moment when the once golden fitness couple faced their final downfall. Craig pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, kidnapping, and arson. His sentence, 21 to 55 years in prison. He was sent to Lovelock Correctional Center in Nevada, where he remains to this day. For someone who had once enjoyed fame, international travel, and million-dollar contracts, his reality now was that of a convicted killer behind bars. Kelly Ryan, on the other hand, received a lighter sentence. She pled guilty to arson and assault with a deadly weapon. Her punishment, 6 to 26 years in prison. But she was released in 2017 after serving 9 years at the Florence McClure Women's Correctional Center in Las Vegas. Since then, she's lived quietly, far from the media glare that once followed her every move. There was also Anthony Gross, accused of helping Craig and Kelly burn Melissa's car. He cooperated with authorities, cut a deal, and walked away with probation, practically untouched compared to the fate of the couple. Nearly 20 years later, Craig Titus is still behind bars. Serving a sentence of 21 to 55 years, he remains locked up at Lovelock. Over the years, he has tried to rewrite the narrative, sending letters and giving interviews claiming he wasn't directly responsible for Melissa's death, insisting he only took the fall to protect Kelly. But those claims have never been backed by evidence. Craig has already faced several parole hearings. He became eligible in 2019, but his request was denied. His next shot comes in 2026, when he'll once again try for early release. Until then, he remains incarcerated, reportedly keeping busy with workouts and writing reflections about his life and career. Kelly Ryan's story took a different turn. After serving 9 years, she walked free in 2017. During her time in prison, she filed for divorce from Craig, which was finalized back in 2009. Since her release, she's avoided the spotlight entirely, living discreetly and trying to rebuild her life far away from the fame that once defined her. The contrast between the couple's glamorous past and their current reality couldn't be starker. Once, Craig and Kelly were seen as one of the most influential power couples in the global fitness scene. Today, their names are forever tied to one of the most shocking crimes in sports history. For many, their fall from grace was just as dramatic as their rise, proof of how fame and bad choices can destroy everything in an instant. The case hasn't been forgotten. Even today, the story of Craig Titus and Kelly Ryan resurfaces in documentaries, books, and TV specials. One of the most notable is Fire in the Desert, which details the behind-the-scenes events of the crime. Each time the story reappears in the media, it reignites debates about the connection between fame, addiction, and violence. For the bodybuilding world, this case was a devastating blow. A sport built on discipline, focus, and resilience was suddenly stained by a brutal crime committed by two of its most recognizable stars. That's why, even now, the story stands as a chilling reminder. No matter how high someone climbs, one wrong choice can bring it all crashing down in seconds. The story of Craig and Kelly Ryan is a textbook example of fame's double edge. What began as an inspiring tale of discipline, grit, and athletic achievement turned into one of bodybuilding's darkest chapters. A mix of drugs, toxic relationships, and reckless decisions destroyed not only two promising careers, but multiple lives. At the center of it all was Melissa James, a young dreamer who just wanted a fresh start. A talented dancer and teacher, she became the victim of a world poisoned by jealousy, mistrust, and excess. Her brutal death shocked not just bodybuilding fans, but the general public as well, exposing how the pursuit of success can sometimes hide the most dangerous realities behind the scenes. Craig and Kelly remain controversial figures. For years, they were symbols of strength, beauty, and determination. Later, they became forever tied to one of the most shocking crimes in sports history. That duality means that, even today, people don't remember them for their titles or accomplishments, but for the tragic event that changed their lives forever. It's impossible not to reflect on how choices shape destiny. Craig Titus had all the tools to become a positive legend in bodybuilding, but he let himself be consumed by destructive impulses. Kelly Ryan, once a highly admired athlete, also saw her career permanently scarred. And at the center of it all was Melissa James, a young woman whose dreams were cut short in the cruelest way possible. This case also exposes a harsh truth. The sports world, often idealized as a space of discipline and health, can also hide pressure, addictions, and dark secrets. What we see under the bright stage lights doesn't always match what happens behind the scenes, and that contrast can lead to devastating consequences. And that was the shocking and tragic story of Craig Titus, Kelly Ryan, and Melissa James. A story that shows us how the wrong choices can turn success into destruction. Now I want to hear from you. What stood out the most to you in this story? Do you think Craig deserves a second chance when he becomes eligible for parole, or should his past mistakes weigh on him forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read them all, and I love hearing your take. If you found this video interesting and believe it brought some important reflections, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel reach more people. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. Around here, we always bring powerful stories, inspiring journeys, and lessons about the hidden side of sports and life. And if you'd like to support our work even further, consider becoming a channel member. Remember, your participation is what makes this space special. Whether it's commenting, sharing, or suggesting new topics, every interaction strengthens our mission to bring meaningful stories. So make sure to get involved. It's what gives us the energy to keep creating more content. And of course, don't go just yet. I'll leave another video on the end screen that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Click on it and stay with us on this journey of real stories, full of emotion and lessons to think about. See you there.